nerds and nerds. This is Scene and Nerd. I'm your host, Sarah Belmont, and with me, as always, is our Mr. Producer, Will Polk. How are you doing tonight, Will?
Doing very well, Sarah. How are you doing this evening?
I'm good. I feel like I've updated you on all of my shenanigans of this past week, and I'm
Yeah.
ready to tackle Dune. And there will definitely be some shenanigans with my top 5 list.
Yeah, yeah. There will be a little bit. You may predict my top list, but and I know we have sort of dealer's choice as far as topics as well, as far as other things we want to rank for the year. But yeah, looking forward to getting into Dune tonight for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely, if we were recording on Monday, I would be more fresh. It's been a chaotic 24 hours, if not 48 hours for me. And I
Yeah.
do remember. Like I just want to get to like the big and then kind of backtrack a little bit
Yeah.
because and we shared text messages about this immediately after you saw it and I saw it. How did we miss it? Like how? Even
Yeah.
though, I mean, one way I just say, how did we not see that coming? And on the other hand, I'm just like, bravo, good job.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know how to plant a logical seed, then give it time to fester and distract the viewers long enough for you to not even connect those dots until they want you to. Because as soon as Tula looks up and it's like Harkonnen and Atreides
Mhm.
bloodline, I'm like, Tula,
Yeah.
what did you do? What did you do?
Yep, yep. Because even the seed planted with whenever Desmond and Natalia are talking, it's still I was just like, but going back to episode 3, I guess I was so focused on the all the other things that happened during that night, as far as
Exactly.
the the murder,
Mhm.
the fact that she let the one kid go. I mean, yeah, they had sex, but at the end of the day, I wasn't thinking. I mean, I guess there was like a fleeting moment where I was just like, but that's overthinking. I didn't even think like they would have kids or anything like that. I really didn't. It was just sort of like, okay, they fucked and and then she killed them. So, and then, and everything that happened in the scene after that, the morning when she just gives her true identity to him. I mean, I was really just caught up in that moment and their reactions to it and Ori's like, okay, cool, we can start something new. I mean, and I think that was part of the genius of them really getting you to focus on the aftermath than what had happened the night before.
Well, and also it was revealed in that morning that he was Atreides. We didn't know that
Exactly.
in the episode until
Yeah.
then. So it definitely was there was something going on and then you knew they were in love, so they have sex and it's like whatever,
Mhm.
like nothing comes to mind, and then the
Yeah.
next morning like the actual stuff happens, and to the point, and it's also been an episode removed. Like another thing they did a good job is they didn't show that episode and then followed up with this reveal. No,
Right.
like last week's episode is still fresh in the viewer's mind more than the previous one. So
Hmm.
they gave time for also you to forget and,
Yeah. Exactly.
and not piece it together. What did you mean by the seed planted in Natalia and Desmond's scene? Because the scenes were their scene and Tula figuring out the bloodline were cut together. So I wasn't tracking with what you meant by
Yeah,
not.
yeah. I mean, I guess it just really it was the maybe it was more of a sense of like, we get why he is so angry. Maybe
Yes.
that's more about the sisterhood more so than the parentage. Maybe that was the linkage that that because all throughout the previous episodes we were wondering what is his, we've talked about this. What's his motivations and why is he so you know, with Kasha and everything else, what was the motivations for these characters, and really like I will say this fifth episode in Blood Truth really like pulled all these, like, as we've gone through, I was like, some of these things have kind of left me cold. I mean, but as we talk about the episodes, then it's like, oh yeah, this show is actually like it packs a lot for like a very condensed season.
Yeah.
Uh, but
It has good mechanics.
yeah, yeah. So whenever we do get the reveal in this episode, it actually felt earned. I was like, okay,
Oh,
I can rock with this, because y'all did a solid job of laying the foundation for, like, we've had the what the fuck moments, but this one truly was like, wow.
yeah. This wasn't what the fuck. It was like, oh my God, how
Yeah,
am I so fucking stupid? But
yeah.
I'm glad that you brought that up though about Desmond and like the simultaneous reveal of like this being his motivation for his clear uh war against the Sisterhood. And I don't remember us talking or speculating about his motivations. I'm sorry if we did, but I really don't.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably why the reveal worked so well, because I like it when you are so engaged in something
Hmm.
that then the writers start to answer questions that the viewer didn't even think to question.
Hmm.
Like like it's like we didn't think to ask like, oh, so he clearly, because I just had it worked out in my mind that this whole spice uh two births or whatever they said,
Yeah.
one birth in spice, one birth nationally,
Mhm.
um two lives, or is it two lives, like
It's twice born.
twice born, like that had something to do with like the message that he received with the power and abilities is like,
Hmm.
now you have to go and hunt down these. But no, it's clearly a personal and vendetta.
Hmm.
And it's also interesting how that same scene answers a question that I definitely have been asking for a while about
Yeah,
Natalia.
yeah, yeah.
Because this whole episode revealed so much more about the whole Emperor's family and their dynamics, and it makes a lot more sense. And
Hmm.
I really enjoyed her line about how, like, well, I like the let us rid the Imperium from these witches forever.
Yeah.
And how it's like they've taken away, she was chosen because this was an arranged marriage,
Hmm.
and yet he fucked fucked his sister.
Yeah.
Not his sister, this isn't Game of Thrones, but a sister, and had a kid out of wedlock. So she, like, he obviously is still infatuated with her as well. That
Yeah.
was clear. And then also everything that the Sisterhood has been doing with the Inez,
Yeah.
like, and that makes a lot more sense. And yet again, logically it doesn't, it logically it makes sense, and it also catches you off guard because you're we're at a point with the show where we feel like we know these characters,
Hmm.
yet the writers are still revealing, okay, so I know you wanted to know the answer in episode 1, but we're going to drop it in episode 5.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And that was a bit, in introducing Francesca in a major player in the fifth episode was really good design, because it does, like, it contextualizes, as I was saying before, everything that's come before it. Now, because we see that, and not only, and also Valia's plan as well, because again, this is how the Sisterhood is doing their things to, like, continue to, impress upon it, and build their power within the Imperium, because I mean, Francesca was chosen to be with Habakkuk, and she has this, she wasn't, she's an imprinter.
Hmm.
So not only was it the infatuation, but but it's like she is designed to basically use this imprinting to be, to basically he be bonded with him. Use the powers of seduction and sex and everything else to be bonded with this with Habakkuk. So, so it not only does it make the arranged marriage between him and Natalia, it paints a different light on it from that standpoint, but also it also explains why Natalia is just so bitter and angry towards the sisterhood because of this relationship that's out there, and also why he is so cold and distant towards Natalia. Because I remember that very first episode, it was just like, oh, we were wondering like what's going on with their marriage here. I mean, you could see their distance, and so again,
Just why is he so weak?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, like
yeah,
he's a very and I can and Francesca pointed that out to her son
mhm,
and said he's a man driven by fear. And I
yeah,
think that's exactly why, where all these women around him are clearly not driven by fear, driven, they want the power and they want to
mhm,
preserve the power. So it's, or they, I bet it's more because I think about a line, I think it was like last week about how a man with power will do, with all that power, will do everything they can just to preserve it. Like once
mhm,
they have it, it's all about
yeah,
preserving it.
mhm,
While the women still don't feel like they have that power, and so they are not driven by fear of losing anything because I mean, Natalia's like, fuck it.
yeah,
I'm gonna go screw Desmond, another thing we should have seen like really coming. And as soon as she entered the chambers, I was like, she's
yeah,
gonna make a
yeah,
move. She's gonna make a
yeah,
move. It's gonna be weird because he clearly has mommy issues. I did not know to the extent though
mhm.
until later. Um,
Yeah.
but just
We did kind of like, I know whenever Desmond was like early on, we saw the seeds there. We did kind of like something's going to happen there because we joke at the time, we just joke because Habakkuk is just so feckless and Desmond is just so strong and powerful. But yeah, but we get some, again, they deepen the threads there as far as why he is just so why he's there and why he is so pissed off about the sisterhood.
right, right. Um, we also learn more, and I did ask this question last week. I was like,
Mm,
what's the point of Constantine?
yeah,
and,
yep,
and so when he actually said that line in the episode, I was like,
I
thank
thought of
you.
you.
Thank you. What was the point? But I have to give it to the actor because his delivery of that line really hit me because like he was in it, and then her reaction, I don't know if she told the entire truth.
Oh,
But I feel like she definitely told him what he needed to hear.
mm,
And the other thing about Constantine, and I speculated this, if, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm like 99% sure uh, Theodosia
mm,
turned into him to request the presence of Francesca. Because because
yeah.
Constantine tells her, like, why are you here? Like, I didn't, and then she said, well, you sent for me. And it's like, no, I
I
didn't.
thought I thought Valia was the one who planted that message out there.
No, no, I think that because they have technology, I think it had to be Theodosia had to impersonate Constantine in
Okay.
order for the message to be sent.
Hmm.
Like, think Star Wars and how they have that technology where they see the person. I wonder
Oh
if
yeah.
they have to do that like
Oh yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
So I know Valia's behind it, of course.
Right.
It
Right.
makes it was perfectly clear. And I find it very funny the moment Francesca kind of confronts her about it. And then Valia tells her a little bit about the plan. Her first question is like, is Tula aware of all this?
Yep.
So you can see to an extent the sisterhood is still a little divided, and not everyone like directly follows. I mean, I think there are people who will follow Tula more than they would follow Valia just because of how she is about things.
Yeah.
Those sisters. But anything else about the Emperor family and all of that before we get into the Atreides of it all?
Well, I mean, as far as the other dynamics too, I think with Inez, and I know you'll probably pick up a little bit of that with when we get into the Atreides, but she not being on board with her father, naming Constantine to be the head of the forces, and also, and I guess how Constantine even got it was turning into the Atreides, as a segue to talking about Kieran, but that was those were the main, I think what we covered are the main things, other than just as far as Desmond just being named the head of the guard itself, and how he's as far as just how he how he was really seen it as an honor to lowly soldier from Iraq is now placed in this high position in the Imperium, and just ready to, I think I really enjoyed that scene where he was putting on the coat of arms and really immersing himself into his new role, because again it was just sort of like it was, he's been building, do one of these things all throughout the series to get to this place, and now that he's achieved it, he was going to definitely do Habakkuk's bidding to root out the rebellion.
Yeah. So my whole thing, I still fall asleep during the Inez storyline, but I just have this question. Has Kieran always spoken with an Irish accent? Like, I swear, the scene between him and Michaela in this episode, I was sitting there like, where did this Irish accent come from? Like, where?
Yeah, it was more pronounced this episode for some reason. You're right. Yeah. I never really noticed it before, but now that you mention it, yeah. Either that or he was just like, did he not have as many lines before?
Well, fair. Very fair point. He's a very stoic, say nothing, just observe the situation kind of guy, or make out with Inez. But at the same time, I was just, because he had quite a few scenes in this episode, but I swear the first scene between him and Michaela, I was just like, where did this accent come? I'm actually, it's not like aware, but so you couldn't do that the whole time? Like, I'm so confused. So funny.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I really liked the Michaela of this episode, because her scene with Desmond, and I should have, well, I don't know. Yes, I've seen both movies, but I do not know Dune the way other people know Dune. I do not understand it. So the blue eyes should have given me a tip that she was a Freeman, who are the people of Arrakis. And I really liked the tit for tat exchange between them, especially because he calls her out on it. It's like, so why are you at the end of the day here helping the people who are raping your planet?
Yeah.
And that brings me to something that I put on my notes at the very beginning, before like really the episode even started. For everything, all of the mechanics that this show does well with the characters, yes, I still think it feels a bit cold, but it definitely is strong in the story that it's trying to tell and the world it's trying to build. The one thing that I really don't understand about the lore, and it hasn't been made clear despite 2 movies and 5 episodes of television, what's the big deal about the spice? What's the big deal about it? Like, yeah, I see that it clearly gives you blue eyes. You get high off of it. I guess it seems like people need it to have sex. I don't know. But like other than that, like what is the appeal of it and why is it so important for somebody to like hoard it? What power comes from it? I know like we have the twice more, but it's still not clear to me because they've been doing this for hundreds of years, right? And
So
they will continue to be trying to rape Arrakis for
yeah, well,
thousands of years to come.
yeah. So I mean, it's a couple things. One is it's just limited supply, just like we were joking in our pre-show about when you're trying to get tickets to a particular show. I mean, it's in great demand. I mean, because the only place in the universe apparently that this drug can be grown is Arrakis. So and of course, yeah, you answer your own question in a couple ways because it does, it does increase vitality. It does heighten senses. We've seen it also used with, as we'll talk about Lila here shortly. It can be used to lengthen lifespans or be used to bring people back. So, I mean, it's just a very, very valuable commodity that is only in this one part of the universe. And so whoever controls the trade is also the prescience that it also gives people. So whoever controls it basically has a lock on the one of the most valuable commodities in the universe.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, but maybe it's because I know that it continues to go on, and it's not that the spice isn't grown. It's the worms shit on the worms on Arrakis.
Yeah.
It's their shit. Yeah. So it's not really grown. It's not.
Well, it's harvested, yeah. But yeah.
Yeah, it's harvested on the planet.
Yeah.
So the Van High, I don't know about limited supply though. Is all I'm saying. I guess like, and I don't want to dwell on this point by any means. It's not an argument worth having, but I just wish that it would, as a viewer who's relatively new to Dune and the lore, I just wish it was better communicated, like to the point where I was like, why can't we have spice on Earth? Like, I feel like it's missing a bit of that.
Well, see, but to me, it seems like, I mean, well, at least I haven't watched part 2, but at least with this story with Prophecy Part 1, and even the 1984 version of that was done by oh gosh, I'm blanking, but that director now. But in all versions, I mean, it's very clear that the only place in the universe that this stuff can be harvested is Arrakis. So
Oh, I know.
I mean, I think So I mean, I think it's pretty clear in the universe for why it's so valuable.
Yeah.
At least to me. Yeah.
Yeah. To you.
Yeah.
All right. So that brings us to Lila / Raquella, which shout out to the actress because she did a great job playing Raquella. Yeah. Great job. Also, I like how they didn't do a jump scare last episode. Totally got me this episode.
Oh yeah.
Totally got me when they opened the little door. I was just like, what's going on? Bam. Oh God. All of those scenes were, again, it's when they lean, and it didn't get too horror like after the initial stuff, there was a lot of they did I think they did the jump scare because they wanted you to feel a little bit like, oh, okay, so we might have a resurgence of this, and she's clearly stuck. But after it settled for a little while, it got less and less, especially when Raquella really took over. Over that, and and it was interesting when Raquella brought up Dorit.
Yeah.
Doretta. And even the acolyte was just like, I don't know. Which, man, the other acolytes are they're planning something. That scene when I feel like it was the blood sample arrives.
Yeah.
And they're on the top of the buildings looking down like a bunch of creepers. I'm just like, oh God, they are definitely like, Desmond doesn't realize how the Sisterhood with the acolytes could very easily just like implode on itself.
Yeah. I mean, at this point, I mean, because I mean, we see that division from the get, and we're continuing to see it now with the one sister, whenever questioning Tula and was all with the abomination. I mean, that was the other thing too. I mean, as far as Raquella and Lila, I mean, they're the whole thing here being an abomination because of what has transpired here by Tula putting her in a thinking machine and reanimating her. I mean, in some regards. Well, I guess she was also in a coma. She wasn't ever dead, but still. It's I mean, the scales could be easily tipped one way or another, like you said, without any external interference from Desmond at this point. But also the other thing too with what I liked about this was how, even though we still haven't gotten a full explanation as far as how Desmond got his power, we do know that just from the samples that they've been able to get, analyzing what happened to Kasha.
Gotcha.
They realize Raquella was like some kind of airborne virus that
Well, what killed Kasha is something different. I feel like what they were trying to imply is it not only killed Kasha, but it unleashed a virus that is now affecting, not in the same way, but the other students. And I feel I'm not putting, I still think though, because of the dreams they're having, Doretta is also at play here. And so the virus may have caused the dreams. Well, no, because Leela went under before all of the dreams really started happening.
Correct.
So it's almost like Doretta saw that door get open and put her hand out and randomly grabbed a hold of the airborne virus and was like, okay, this is my ticket. I feel like they're too connected. And I think what they're also, besides, and I say it all the time, the lean into the horror, but they're doing a good job with the Sisterhood storyline of this balance between science and mysticism.
Yep.
And because it goes back and forth and all, like you said before, they put her in a thinking machine, but at the same time, the thinking machine injected her with a bunch of spice.
Yeah.
So they're like, it's really interesting. And I like the design of the DNA and that index and how it's, when it starts, it takes the form of these trees and these roots. Like I thought the design of that, I mean, I haven't been too impressed by a lot of the design of this world. And I was thinking about that a lot in this episode, about how, like, Game of Thrones, and I'll stick to House of Dragon. we stayed in King's Landing like forever that first season. Yet because we weren't just stuck at the palace. We
Hmm.
saw we saw the commoners a lot. We would go on these little adventures. The world still felt big.
Yeah.
I think they had some budget issues
Oh
because
yeah.
the universe does not feel big to me. It feels like we keep jumping. We've been jumping from between two planets
Hmm.
pretty much the whole time.
Yeah.
And every time we're on a planet, we get stuck in the same location and it's just and we last week we saw a lot more people, but it's just it doesn't feel it doesn't feel big and it doesn't feel lived in.
Mm, mm, mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. You're right. I mean, it is very, and I know that was something we talked about as well from the beginning. And it hasn't changed from from my first impressions. I had the same thought as well watching the set designs and stuff. It was, yeah, it does feel like it's like a sound stage.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
multiple sound
Multiple
stages.
sound stages or multiple volumes. But I will agree with you though with the thinking machine that is on Wallach 9. I can't remember the name of it right off the top of my head right now. But whenever it does activate and was doing the helix and all that, it was a good use of what budget they did have. It was a good use of the design and effects. The helix and all
Yeah.
the DNA strands and stuff. It just really added texture to that. We are doing the genetic matching here as far as our 23andMe.
Yeah. Yeah. This is a very I'm just gonna say it, but I think I like it because I know that it's based off of a book.
Hmm.
And I feel as though a writer could easily describe that kind of thing. And so
Hmm.
it feels like a book brought to life
Yeah.
with that set design. And I'm sure arguably the other sets are similar, but it just there I mean, I keep thinking about the adjective you used. Like those other sets feel cold.
Hmm.
Like they feel very bland and that's another reason. That's something also to keep in mind with these shows is like it's a visual medium. So you have to be intrigued by the
Yeah.
visuals as well. And I know that there's a point for why Wellick 9 is all dreary and everything, but I feel like they could do more, but again, maybe it was a budget issue. I mean, we've had more warm shots than I thought we would.
Yeah. Yeah.
So and there's been some explosions and some stuff. I mean, we saw Desmond survive with his shield.
Yep.
I mean, at this point, I feel like the shields are more valuable.
Yeah, it is pretty valuable when you think about it. Because I think about Duncan Idaho and like and Jason that was Jason Momoa's character, right? In part one.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Whenever he was in the big fight in the thing there, I mean, that's how he was able to help Paul and his mom escape and stuff because of those shields. I mean, those things are very very valuable, and knowing how to and thinking about some of the fight sequences, even the trainings that we've seen with the trade with Constantine and Kieran and Inez, learning how to use those shields to your advantage. So I mean, it is a very powerful technology that's probably one of the more visually and one of the coolest things out of the Dune uh, universe because I
Yeah.
mean because the aesthetic and stuff is very, I mean, even, I mean, granted, obviously we're not talking, obviously with a TV show is not going to have the multi-million dollar budget that the feature film would have, but
Yeah.
even so, the aesthetic in Dune it's not about the technology. It's all about the plots. It's the Har the Harkins and Harkins and the Atreides that's the story. That's where everything is really focused on in the politics. Not, it's not like Star Wars where the flash of the universe and feeling lived in is not as much an issue in this story as it is in other sci-fi shows.
It is sad though that 10,000 years later, it's still all about the Harkonnens and the Atreides.
Yeah.
and and yeah, I could say more, but again, I know you haven't seen Dune 2.
Yeah. I'm gonna get around to it before if this show does get a season 2, which hope I'm especially given I don't know how it's going to end Sunday, but it has enough there that I think you end on a cliffhanger, and then because the numbers hasn't been stellar, HBO cancels it. I'm gonna be so pissed. This will actually be one where I am pissed because I feel like I've gotten invested in this story now.
Yeah, I would agree. I would be pissed just because I'm like, we just started.
Yeah.
Yeah. I want some at the same time. Like we'll speculate. I'll save it for next week more.
Yeah.
So about that and a season 2, which we will be for our listeners. We will be recording on Monday next week, right before the holidays, to finish out Dune Prophecy. We wanted to make sure we concluded because neither one of us would be able to remember what we wanted to talk about if we had to wait until 2025. So, yeah. and then after that we'll be on break for about 2 weeks and then be back in 2025. But before we do that, we are using this time with y'all tonight to do some top 5 TV shows, and as I mentioned before, there's some shenanigans with my list, and I'm not sure if it's good shenanigans or bad shenanigans, because I struggled. We've done this now 3 years in a row, and this year I struggled where I technically have a top 7. And it's not, and here's why I struggled. I'm just going to say, I don't think this was the best year of TV for me. Mm-hmm. I feel like there was a lot, like 2023 really just hit it out of the park for me with TV shows. 2022 was solid. But there's something about this year when I reflect, and I've been keeping track of everything I can that started this year. And I struggled with 4 shows technically. 4 shows. I'll say only my 1 and 2 are like solid. The rest of my list is kind of all over the place. I almost want to take this opportunity, like as we go through our list, for us to like have a conversation about really how I feel about some of these shows.
Actually, to that point, so I have my 5, but also I actually made a list of things that were disappointing.
That's hilarious. Can we please start there?
Yeah, we can start there.
Okay. So this would be shows that you found disappointing?
Yeah.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah,
Wow, yeah. I'm excited to hear this. We never get to hear disappointment from Will.
And you're probably gonna be, some of you'll probably be like, yeah, that makes sense. And then others you'll be like, yeah, that makes total sense. I'll give an obvious one, like right off the bat.
Season 3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was. Yeah. I mean, it was good. Don't get me wrong. I mean, when I say disappointing, it's not that it was like a shitty show or anything. It was just from what we have had before, judging it against itself. It was a disappointing season.
Yeah. So you have a list of how many shows are on your list?
So I mean, for the whole year.
Yeah.
Oh gosh.
Like of disappointing shows.
Really, 4.
4. So, and The Bear would be where on that list?
And they're not in any particular order.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Just more. I mean, yeah, yeah. The other one's Cobra Kai. I mean, it's just
Oh,
like, yeah,
that's pretty.
that's yeah. I'm almost. It's almost like really. Yeah. It's that one is just because it's just bad. You know that was
It,
why I was disappointed. Well, also it's just like I feel like it's just wash, rinse, repeat at this point. Why am I? And I'm glad we made a decision, and I'm glad you pushed me on this one to go with the Dune Prophecy route instead of doing a Cobra Kai.
yeah. Yeah.
Yes. So
I
thank you for doing that. Thank you for doing that.
you're,
I was want
you're
our listeners to know that I'm so glad you did that.
yeah, I was like, let's do Dune. I
Yeah.
don't want I don't want I'm just looking at my stuff and so before when I said I kept track of everything, I clearly left off me watching Cobra Kai the first half. And maybe that's my excuse. It's not on my list of being watched because it's still incomplete because we haven't watched the second half.
Yeah.
And who knows when we will. But
Yeah. Yeah.
which
Yeah.
leads me to I'm blanking on the name. I know another show that we bailed on.
Oh, Avatar.
No, no.
Okay.
Is that on your list though?
It's on my list of just all the things we watched for the year.
Okay.
Yeah.
See, I left off a bunch of stuff that we may have started, or I even started just on my own, but didn't finish.
Okay. Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I don't feel like it counts.
Okay. Yeah. I put anything that I watched at least 3 episodes of, I put on my list.
Yeah, but there's another show.
Yeah.
Invincible.
Invincible. Yeah. That's on my list. Yeah. Yeah. I was going to be that was going to be the next thing out of my mouth was going to be Invincible. Yeah. Because I know we bailed. That was on me.
It was on him, guys. It really
Yeah.
was.
Yeah.
I for like ever since that, I keep circling back and being like, what, are we gonna ever finish this? Are we gonna ever? You remember the time when you made me watch Adam Eve out of nowhere?
Yeah.
Like
I
hour and
know.
a half.
I know. I was just like, oh yeah, and I was so so hyped about Invincible, but for whatever reason, it lost me somewhere. And maybe I'll get back on it because I know it's come. I know I saw the trailer. I guess was it last weekend or weekend before last for the upcoming season, beginning of next year. But yeah, so maybe I'll get back on it. Oh, maybe over the holiday, I'll give it a fresh look.
Hopefully he does that before he watches the Joker too. So,
Yeah.
are those all of the disappointing shows, or are we missing one?
One, two. Well, one was the Acolyte. That was another one you bailed on. I did finish it with our and talk to our friends over at at A plus because it was just sort of like, well, maybe the show will get better, but it never did. It had its moments. It had its moments. Some of the best fight sequences I would say in Star Wars, but that's about the only thing that redeemed it. And then one that you may or may not be surprised is The Boys.
Interesting. Interesting. Why so?
Because upon reflection, after now that we're far from it, at the time, Homelander, Anthony Starr, give him the hardware. He earns if he wins this year, he would have earned it. I mean, the only person I think that comes close to the only other, Colin Farrell, but they're in different categories.
Yeah.
But the more it was just, I think at the end of the day, and when we potted about it, we talked about this. I think it was just too on the nose this year. What made The Boys stand apart from me earlier was with the satire and everything and pointing out things in real world and in the satirical world of The Boys. It was always had that the bitingness of the satire, and it was never like just right on the nose. this season was just so on the nose that it was sort of like it didn't feel special. It was just like, okay, I get it. And and it just sort of lost its edge to me in that regard. So it is a good thing. I think Eric Kripke is doing the right thing by ending the show on the 5th season and not allowing a network or anybody else to force them to do like they did with Supernatural and going on for 15 years or whatever, because it's getting it's become the thing that it was parodying.
Yeah, yeah. Just to clarify, Eric Kripke left the show in season 5. So
yeah,
it
so
was,
he knew. So again, he knew when to step off.
yeah. The problem is his show was really successful, and the CW wouldn't let it go, rightfully so.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's funny. I agree with you to an extent, because while putting this together, anytime I would look and I would see The Boys season 4, I would think to myself, no, I'm not going to put it on my top 5. And it's not that I was disappointed. It's just that I've never put The Boys on my top, I don't think. And it's mainly because in the moment, I'm fully engaged and everything. And I think this year, though, there were a few episodes where I was like, they went too far. The Homelander episode, until you brought it up, I thought, it was like, yeah, I remember that leaving a bad taste in my mouth, even though Anthony did an amazing job in that episode, particularly. They went too far for me in a lot of instances. And I missed some of the dynamics, and I thought that they took the easy way out of some situations, which is very unlike them in previous seasons. So I completely respect you putting that on there. And it's not that we're gonna bail on the final season.
Oh,
no way.
no.
But
no way. Yeah. And like I said, it was enjoyable. I mean, I enjoyed it, but again, judging it against itself.
Exactly.
That it was a down season for me.
Yeah. And it's not a top 5 show of this year, which I mean, I don't have any secondary lists, because I'll be honest, I went into this year and I tried to watch a lot of K-dramas. I bailed on so many K-dramas. I bailed on 5 or 6.
I know.
Bad.
Yeah, I remember you started some, and then I think you told me about a couple. I think I watched a few of them, didn't finish them either, but I remember us having conversations either here online or offline before taping or afterwards about particular shows. So
yeah, I mean, we did both watch A Killer Paradox, and but and I did finish Marry My Husband, which I was obsessed with at the beginning of the year. But then the thing is, as it went on, I started to not like the main characters more and more with every episode. And so by the end of it, I was just like, all right, let's get it over with. But I will say, this show has only aired 5 episodes. No, 6 episodes. But so far, if I had to crown a K-drama of the year, and I know a lot of other people are obsessed with it as much as I am, when the phone rings, it's so good. I am worried it's gonna have the same fate as Marry My Husband, where it's just gonna go on too long. But so far, they have done a really good job with really breaking down this husband and wife and making us understand them, and not get too bogged down by B and C storylines with cast members who don't really matter. No, it's just about these two and past and present and their families, and a mystery. There is a mystery that I get kind of bored by, but whatever. I just for some reason, I always forget this, but I really like when shows use sign language. I think that's so cool. And the wife in this I will say technically she's mute. I
Okay.
say technically for a reason, but she's mute. So she knows sign language and does sign language and yeah. So, but anyway, so I will give a shout out to that, as well as A Killer Paradox. The Frog I
Yeah.
finished. The Frog is good but slow, and I did bail on the trunk. Every time I try to put it back on, I'm like, I watch for about 3 minutes. I'm like, nope, I don't care. But yeah. So I don't have a random top 5 list of anything. I also don't have a top 5 reality TV show, but let me tell you, the best reality show is Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. Thank you. That is all. I am so invested in them that I'm doing a rewatch because they're in season 5, and I've seen all the seasons. Like I caught on board in season 2 when Jen Shaw got arrested. Hell yeah!
Wow.
I wanted to see that whole thing.
Yeah. I've been meaning to speak. Yeah, yeah. I've been speaking of reality shows. I've been meaning to ask you what your thoughts on the turnover of cast on the Vanderpump Rules. Well, we could talk about that for another day.
I don't know why this is a surprise to anybody. Everyone talked about there being footage of people working at Sir Restaurant in the alley, the classic alleyway, being filmed. Like we knew that was coming. We just didn't know that the old cast would be completely gone. Yeah, you watch the last season of Vanderpump Rules, the writing is on the walls. They do not want to be there and be forced to hang out with each other anymore, and rightfully so. So
yeah.
All right. Well, let's stop monkeying around and get to the top 5 shenanigans. So do we want to go with 5 to 1?
Yeah.
Because like the end of my list is where things get messy. So why don't you lead off, my friend?
So, and you're right. I had the same problem too. Putting things as far as top 5, and there's a lot of scratches for the 5th spot. But in the 5th spot on my list is Supercell.
Yeah.
Yeah. It knocked off knocked off Agatha, actually. I was going back and forth between those two as far as that last spot, and I think it was just something fresh about it, a story that we had. Yes, there were some derivative things from other parts of the genre, but I just really liked how that it was a show that took a real world genetic disease and disorder and put it into a context of the superhero world, and then just seeing the lives of regular people in South London, just trying to like come to grips and come to terms with getting superpowers, and the story that the protagonist had as far as with his powers and the things that he was trying to accomplish. Because I don't want to give too much away because some folks may have not watched it yet, but it was just really, I just thought it was just a very compelling show, and it is one that one of the things that we talk about sometimes is like the show sticking with you, and when you watch it, it just stays with you. And it was one that of the shows that I watched this year, it was just one that just stayed with me. That whereas Agatha was like, yeah, I enjoyed it, but it wasn't like, I wasn't like thinking about it like, just randomly throughout the day.
I have that issue with so many shows this year.
Yeah. Yeah. What was your 5th show?
I'm staring at my list and like, you guys, everyone, please take this stuff with a grain of salt, because honestly, arguably slots 3 through 6.
Depends on what you're looking for.
The interchangeable. Okay, I'm just going to tell you, number 6, I currently have on my list because I want to talk about this. Tell Me Lies season 2.
Okay.
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 I am on the fence about putting it on my list because is it a good TV show? Arguably, no, it's trash TV, but it's brilliant at the same time. Like, it's really good trash TV. And season 2 was very, like, much stronger than season 1 because I started this show with season 2, got caught up, realized that the season had it and it ended, and I was like, I want more. So I went all the way back, started season 1. Like, that's how. Now, granted, we've talked about this. Did majority of the time, did I have season 1 playing while I was doing other stuff? Yes.
Yeah.
That's why, like, do I put it on my list or do I not? I don't know. That's why it's number 6 right now. But granted, what currently is on, and I can't stress it enough, everyone, what currently I have on number 5 is not 1 but 2 shows. Because, Will, because I'm glad you asked. Why do I have 2 on as number 5? Because to me, these shows sit at the same table. Okay? You already brought one of them up, The Bear season 3. Okay? Was it a disappointment? Abso-fucking-lutely. Was it boring and did it frustrate me that that like the characters, our main characters, go nowhere? Absolutely. Did I laugh out loud when, spoiler alert, John Cena shows up randomly?
Yes.
Will have I rewatched the season? No. Will I? Yes.
We'll both watch it in June before season 4 starts.
Oh yeah. I'm probably gonna watch it within the next 2 weeks. Just do a complete. Because what my thing about The Bear is, I had this experience with season 2. When I rewatch season 1, I'm probably gonna go straight through, and then by the time season 2, I'll want more, and then I'll be on season 3. So that's why I couldn't not put it on my list, because I'm like, I still am so invested in the show. Just like I am with House of Dragon.
Yep.
Okay. I can't not have House of Dragon season 2 on my list. At the same time, every time I think about that show, I think about the ending montage and how much that is a sin in my mind. So it goes in the number 5 slot. Okay. And in my opinion, both of these shows committed the biggest crime with, in my opinion, I can't stress that enough because I know Will disagrees with me about this. Like, the characters don't grow. Where I feel like in both seasons of TV, we start in one place and we end up exactly where we started. And I'm like, what is happening here? Nothing. So that's why I couldn't not have these shows on my list, but I also, like, they sit at the same table this year. Like, they're what I am holding against them are the same things. So, and arguably why I'm keeping them are for this, like, their merits are similar of value as well. So
that's completely fair. And I, and that is a good segue to my 4th show, which is House of the Dragon. Despite this, I agree. As we have now, we're at the end of the year and has a little bit of distance from it. You're right. I mean, in many ways, there wasn't too growth with these characters and stuff, and compared to the first season. But at the end of the day, it's the staying power with this show, and just for me at least, and I just really, I like Damon's arc, and and just everything. I know that we were really hoping, a lot of folks were really hoping for the Battle of Rook's Rest was going to be a big piece of the show. I just, at the end of the day, I think they understand that they didn't have the budget to do all the things they wanted to do, and they cut the season short. But I do feel like it was it as good as the first season? No, but it still was a damn fine show for the year, for me at least. Yeah, just couldn't definitely is in my top five. But I think four or five is probably the appropriate place for it.
Yeah.
No higher.
Yeah, cause which brings me to my number 4, which could easily go below The Bear and House of Dragon. Every time I think about those two, I think about the ending of House of Dragon, which infuriates me. So I'm like, nope, staying at number 5, because my number 4 is Agatha. And the only reason why, I'm like, Agatha had a better ending. Like, yeah. This is why I'm saying my list is a complete mess, because arguably I could make so many different arguments for these shows to be jumbled, and we haven't even gotten into number 30 yet. I am not confident about my list at all. These are just where they landed, and I haven't really thought to change them, because did Agatha stick with me? Not necessarily. I think it started good, or it had a great re-entry into the world of WandaVision, and then it kind of lost a bit of ground during the middle. It got a bit shaky. It got a bit too okay, but it was saving it for like the last 3 or 4 episodes, which really hammered it home. And it was like, wow, they pulled a what the fuck. They pulled a why didn't we see that coming? And the ending was one of the best endings we had all year. So for all of that, that's why it's on the list, and that's why I felt like it was appropriate to put it above The Bear and House of Dragon.
I can't argue with that. I these are all subjective, and I would definitely want to make sure, I want to hear our listeners give their rankings of the shows that we've talked about, or things that we haven't talked about, because I would love to see whether people have been thinking about the year in television in 2024. So, and with that, I will go to my third show, and you won't be surprised when I say this, but Mr. and Mrs. Smith.
I was going to say, I bet you it was Mr. and Mrs. Smith, because I was doing the math. I was doing the calculation, and I'm like, But then at last minute, I was like, or is he going to pull a Fallout?
No. The only other thing that could possibly would have, but it's not, it would be X-Men 97.
Yeah. I was looking at that too, and it's like, is Will going to pull an X-Men 97? But yeah. So go ahead and talk to us about Mr. and Mrs. Smith.
It was just and when we talked about it last February, and it was just a show that really just resonated with me. I think the chemistry between Donald Glover and Maya Erskine, the things that where you have these characters thrown together to find and the growth. Speaking of character growth and the relationship growth over the season, I mean, they went through the whole arc of a relationship, and where and speaking of endings, and even though the ending left me, again, I don't want to spoil, but it's one of those endings where it's still like, man, and I just don't, it just sticks with me. It's like, and I hope we get some resolution to it some way, because we do know it was renewed for a second season. And it was just it took a known property of a movie that was done years ago, put its own spin on it, and was just a very satisfying block of television that really, as far as you said, this year was kind of up and down, but that one just really, to me, just was one that rose to the top as far as my top 3 shows that I've watched this year.
Yeah. It's similar to my number 3, Nobody Wants This. Which for a moment there was like, I'm gonna give Nobody Wants It its accolades at number 5. And then I thought about the other shows and was like, no.
Yeah.
Because this is one of the few shows this year that I watched and I have rewatched. I've rewatched 1.5 times. Because it's very easy, half-hour episode, and it's charming, and I've rewatched it and I still find the supporting cast to be lovely. I don't get bored by their storylines. I'm not fully annoyed with the main characters and the romance between Kristen Bell and Adam Brody. They actually do have really good chemistry, and I feel like the will they won't they of it all makes sense with the stakes that they've set up, in the sense that he's a rabbi, she's not Jewish. That's a big issue. Like their relationship issues are adult relationship issues. So and they explored that in a very funny and romantic comedy way. So it's refreshing, and I feel like it's something that, I don't know, it doesn't stick with me, but I will rewatch it, and I am looking forward to season 2. Even though I heard some writer changes, and I don't know, and I'm definitely invested in the Sasha sister storyline, but I also foresee that not happening just because they don't want the sister to be a homewrecker, which makes sense. But still, the chemistry between those two, come on. Home wreck. Yeah. And so that leads you to your number 2, right? Which is Gun, right?
Actually, it's Penguin.
See, I knew you could have done either way. You could have gone either way on it. And just to spite me, you were like, I'm going to put Shogun as number 1. Because Sarah's not even going to have it on her list.
Nope, I know you wouldn't, but or maybe you do. I don't know. But Penguin was number 2, and it was hard. I mean, I was going back and forth with both with these two, because they were just Penguin. Just there's this shows like, and we said this with when we started talking about it. It was the sequel. It was the spinoff that I didn't know that I needed to have, but I'm so glad I got it, because they're taking a character that was in the Batman. I've only watched the Batman once, like all the way through. I've seen, and then like I may have like turned it on but turned it off. But it took a character that didn't have, had a few, had about 5, 6, 7 scenes or whatever in the movie total. And then they built this universe. They built this story around him, and they made me care about a villain, a sociopathic killer. And I was rooting for the guy, and all the twists and turns that we talked about, over the course of the episodes this season, and it was just like to quote Bruce Wayne in Batman Begins, whenever Alfred's like giving him shit over like taking the Batmobile across all the roofs, and he was like, "What is that? Damn good quote, damn good television." Because it was just really, really good. And it was like I said, it was hard between these 2 shows, which one was second, which one was first. But Penguin was my number 2.
So what came down to it for making it number 2? Besides me.
What's that?
No, go ahead.
No, what it was, honestly, it was Somebody had to get a top spot. It was really a coin flip. I mean, honestly, it really was a coin flip because I mean, I could, if you talk to me tomorrow, I might have a different list. But when I was putting it together, yeah, it
Anyway,
was just sort of my gut. I mean, it was just my gut at the time. I was just like, one show had to be one, and I couldn't do 1A because that's kind of cheating. So somebody had to be two. So it was the Penguin.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, y'all wrote that down, right? Will doesn't have an answer. He did it to spite me.
No, not at all.
So I was playing by the rules, and I clearly, because we've all talked about my shenanigans, but they're at lower spots. I took 1 and 2 spots very seriously, and for a long time, this was my number one. But then I couldn't do what Will just did and not have Penguin, which was the best television show of this year, as my number one. And so Will, do you have any guess about my number two? Any guess?
Alrighty, any guess? Wouldn't be a Killer Paradox. Let's see.
I can't believe that was even in the running.
Three Body Problem?
No. That's funny. You think I like that show way more than I did. Okay, you're not going to guess it because you have probably forgotten about this show because we did not cover it, and it was released in, I think, March of this year. So my number one or my number two show is One Day.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. That makes total sense. Makes total sense.
Yeah, it makes total sense because for those who did not hear me talk about One Day, let me fill you in. I have history with this property. So One Day, my history and love affair with this story starts when I read the book over a decade ago, multiple times in preparation for the movie. I watched the movie one time, hated the movie. And then fast forward, I see this coming out, I watch it. I know what's going to happen, and yet I wept like a baby during the final episode. And not necessarily because of what happens, but because of the performances, and I stand by that to this day. Mm-hmm. Because of the performances, it broke my heart, and it proved I'm not completely dead inside. And have I rewatched it? Yes. Have I rewatched that episode? No. No. Also, I might have even fast forward through some scenes in that episode just to get to the end when it's a little bit happier. And I'm like, I can't watch those scenes ever again because it'll tear me apart. But a part of me wants to tell everyone to go and watch this show. Another part of me is just like, I also had a very unique experience because while I was watching it, I would realize what was taken from the book and what was also how they did it differently in the movie. And granted, I've only seen the movie one time. So it was a very surreal experience for me because I've seen this story now in 3 different mediums. Mm-hmm. And then for it to still have that emotional effect, like it's just overall, I really adore the story. And I do think some people disagree, but I do think they got the chemistry right between Dex and Emma, and that's why it works so well. And it was really easy. I was surprised. One of the episodes is only like 20 to 15 minutes long. So they didn't belabor anything, but they also gave a lot of the story beats what it deserved. So because it's a long book, but they managed to, I think it's 10 episodes, if I'm not mistaken. And like I said, it ranges from like 40 minutes to 14 minutes. So, but yeah, it was my number one for a long time. And then the Penguin happened, and it was still my number one. And I'm just going to go into this because I'll walk away when you talk about Shogun. But I it was like one day I was gonna do it again to Will this year, where last year I had the Bear season 2. But by the finale, and mainly Francis,
Mhm.
I can't, because what they did with the mother-son dynamic is something that I don't really have seen before.
Mhm.
And yeah, I mean, everyone knows the Oedipus syndrome and all of that. But this got twisted and got rooted in such a fascinating way, because we are dealing with villains. And the more I think about the finale, the half of the finale that I love, the other half I hate. But the half that I do adore, it had the sequence that I've only ever seen play out, um, that is comparable to the Loki season 1 finale.
Mm.
That finale and Loki season 1 finale, I was so caught off guard because it wasn't a big fight. Yeah, there was a fight,
Yeah.
but it was a half of the episode was just a conversation between these 3 villains. And it was a sparring match, very similarly to what happens in the bar where Sophia has Francis and Oz.
Mhm.
And truths are revealed. And anytime when Colin Farrell can make me think to myself, is it because he's a really good actor, or is Oz a really good actor? I don't know.
Yeah.
I can't tell what's going on here, because the performance is so good.
Yeah.
Like I know everyone adores Sophia, and she did great. But I swear, I really think not enough people are talking about Frances and the actress who plays Frances,
Yeah.
and just how pivotal that whole arc was throughout the season. Because even more so than, yeah, he killed, I'm blanking on his name.
Vic?
Vic.
Yeah.
But in a way, keeping Francis alive is a fate worse than death.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so it's just the I can't say enough about that whole arc.
Mhm.
And that is why it's my number 1, and it beat out something that made me cry.
I just
and
thought it beat it out because you weren't comfortable with emotion, but
no, I am. It just has to be earned really well.
Yeah, yeah.
um, but and this is why I'm that confident. I said at the very beginning of my 1 and 2,
Yeah.
because they're my 1 and 2. 3 through 6 or whatever,
Mhm.
I don't know, but overall it was a disappointing year of television, and unfortunately, but I am very much looking forward to next year. Not only in television, but I feel like next year we're going to start to see me talk a little bit more about movies,
Yeah.
which I miss. And I feel like that was another damper this year, that
Yeah. I agree.
like, yeah, when I see more movies than Will, it's a problem. And it's also a problem that I'm the only one who saw Joker 2. And on that note, I'm going to let Will talk about Shogun for the umpteenth time.
Uh, yeah, you're never gonna let me live down Joker 2. I agree with you though that it has been before I go on Shogun, I agree that it really has been a kind of a down year for movies. I mean, I haven't felt motivated to like go. And in one film I have been motivated recently to go see, Wicked. I can't even get a freaking ticket for it because they're all sold out. But 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 with Shogun, so I cannot disagree with anything you said about Penguin, and it's, I mean, again, I felt like I would have been cheating if I did a 1A, and because various reasons could easily I could do the tie and just take the chicken shit way out, but I didn't. Um, Shogun was one of those things where really, I was familiar with the original movie, of course, the source material as far as the book. Never haven't read the book or anything, but I just thought from beginning to end, it had had just a compelling story of even though it was fictional, historical fiction as far as taking real world events from feudal Japan and putting it into this story, and Yabashige as far as the bad character, um, uh, Marco as far as her journey, and just all the characters. I mean, I just thought it was just a show that just like Penguin, but this show also just really stuck with me, and it was just, I mean, the score, the scenery, the
Were you
yeah,
blanking on Blackthorn or Toranaga?
Toranaga, yeah. Sorry, it's late. It's like almost midnight my time, so the my brain was like starting to shut down. But yeah, Toranaga. But also Blackthorn too. But yeah, definitely Toranaga, and just all the his journey as far as just uh becoming the shogunate and everything. It was just such a compelling 10 hours of television that it just really stuck with me, and I hated that they created with a season 2, because I felt like it had a good beginning, middle, and end of that story, and I didn't feel like I needed more. I mean, I felt like I had a complete story that I could just really, just anytime I want to go back and rewatch what I've had, I can do so and enjoy it over and over again. And it was, like I said, it was just everything. It just hit all the right elements all across the board for me this year, and it was my top show. But um, yeah, that was why I picked it for my number one. I mean, it was just one that just it just sort of set the standard for everything for the rest of the year. And the only thing that came close to like knocking it off was Penguin. And it was Penguin came very close, but
We appreciate everyone listening to our rambles and our reiterations of things that I'm sure they've already heard from us, or maybe some new insights as to how we feel about these shows and just the 2024 television as a whole. And on that note, Will, why don't you tell our listeners where they can find you?
yes, you can find me at Will M Polk, WILLMPOLK, on all the socials.
And you can find me there too at SJ Belmont, SJBELMONT. Please follow our crew on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Scene and Nerd, or on Blue Sky at Scene and Nerd, or friend us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram and Threads at scene_n_nerd, and visit our website, www.sceneandnerdpodcast.com. But most importantly, rate, follow, and comment on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever your podcasts. Good night, Geek Out. You're welcome.